Hello everybody, Zoe here from Learning Boosters and welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. Another one has popped up already and I hope everybody is doing well out there and is keeping happy and safe. Today's Wisdom Wednesday is about tutoring. So what's the purpose of tutoring? I've had lots of parents, call me and say, what's the purpose of it? Why should I bother with getting tutoring for my child? So as per usual, I've got myself some notes. So if I'm looking down, I'm just checking my notes to make sure that I'm on track so I don't waffle on too much. So what's the purpose of getting tutoring, or why have tutoring? Well, in this day and age, there is more than 25% of families that actually hire a tutor for their children. Now, a tutor can be from the primary age right up to university age. So with teacher cutbacks and increases in class sizes, it can make it really difficult for children to get that one-on-one attention that they really need. And some kids need a bit more of that one-on-one attention than other kids do. So many families, of course, are turning to tutoring because their children are having trouble keeping up in class. Their grades have slipped, they're showing signs of stress and of not wanting to participate, or parents feel that they're unable to help their children themselves. They either don't have the time, they'd love to be able to help them, but they can't remember how to do the maths. They can't remember, how to do what verbs are or adjectives and things like that. And they need that extra assistance for their child. And sometimes also a lot of parents find that children won't listen to them. I found that with my own son. We actually had to get him outside tutoring, even though I tutor myself. He worked better with somebody else that he didn't know particularly well. And that happens, and that's something we just have to take on board. So when adults start a new job, I'd like to give you a little bit of an analogy here, a little bit of a story to help you. When adults start a new job, we usually receive support, don't we? So it's often in the form of one-on-one mentoring of some sort. So why don't we support our children in the same way? That's all tutoring is for, is to help kids with the difficulties they're having and to give them some mentoring, some one-on-one mentoring. One-on-one tutoring is an investment in your child's future. Let's face it, the purpose of tutoring is to help students help themselves. I love it when students get what it is that I'm actually teaching them and the tutoring sessions end. They don't do any more tutoring sessions, but they can go on and they've really learnt to help themselves in lots of different ways, not just in the subject way, but also in the mindfulness and in the attention way as well. So we need to guide them to a point at which they become that independent learner, and that's what I love to see. When students say, bye, see you, thanks for your help, I'm right now. So that's what I want to see. I don't want a student coming for years and years and years and years on end. I want them to become that independent learner. So let's look at a few different types of ways that tutoring can actually help. So, of course, tutoring can help with learning difficulties. So learning difficulties are very different from intellectual disabilities. They're two very different factors and two different ways that the brain actually works. An intellectual difficulty means that the person will find it harder to understand, learn and remember new things. So the person may have many problems from a range of abilities such as communication, being aware of risks, or managing everyday tasks. Such disabilities, include autism, dyslexia, and other forms of learning difficulties. Okay, so you can have a disability which can lead to difficulties, and then you can have a child that's just basically feeling rather stressed, don't know where to point themselves and just don't understand, they're overwhelmed. So that's not a learning disability, that's a learning difficulty. So I hope that sort of helps us to understand a little bit clearer the differentiation between those. So children with learning difficulties are usually underachieving, especially in maths and English. And despite the apparent normal level of intelligence, underachievement usually occurs when the student doesn't perform to their potential in particular areas, where they're usually having difficulty in these areas, obviously. For example, an underachieving student may have a diagnosis of a learning disability in, say, reading, but his math skills might show that he should be on par with his students, but he's falling behind in that subject as well. So a learning difficulty can be overcome through the identification and special programs catering to the child's individual needs. Now, most schools these days have those social specials programs and will help in the identification of the learning difficulty or disability. Extra attention in a non-threatening environment is what tutoring usually provides for most kids, and it can help at-risk students to actually alleviate their learning difficulties so that they are attending school more often, so that they feel comfortable in the learning environment. So that's a bit of a differentiation between learning difficulties and learning disabilities. And one can lead to the other. So if a child has a learning disability such as dyslexia, yes, it can lead to learning difficulties. So another one is, of course, tutoring helps with that one-on-one personalised attention. So with one-on-one personalised attention, a tutor can give 100% of their time to that particular student, to the issues that they are having. Their programs are customised to suit the learning strategy of that student by building their strengths as a starting point and then developing their knowledge further. So that's the tactics that we use when we're tutoring. We give 100% to that particular student on a one-on-one environment. It can be either online or it can be face-to-face, depending on if we're in the same state. And the planning that we do is specific to that child's or that student's learning difficulty, and it's done in a non-threatening environment. So we can do it at their home or at a library, or they can come to where we actually tutor ourselves. So when a student works one-on-one with a tutor, a relationship of trust is built, and this opens the learning pathways. Now, trust can be built in lots of different ways, and I'm not going to go into that in a huge amount of detail because it really depends on the learning difficulty or disability that the student has and their past experience as to what we do to build that trust. So a couple of little things can be through games, through fun learning games and things like that. They can actually realise, well, actually, I'm not dumb and I do know those things. So that's one way of building some trust things. Tutoring is the only way for any student to gain a personalised program. Now, this is to a certain extent. Yes, they do have learning programs for students at schools, but this is a personalised, individual, concentrated program just for that student. So a personalised program recognises that every student is an individual and they allow the student to progress at their own pace. So that's the differentiation between school and between tutoring. So tutoring is a very intensive one-on-one personalised experience. In the school classroom, it can get watered down a little bit because you've got, 25, 30 different personalities in a classroom. It's really hard to give them any massive amount of one-on-one attention that they desperately need. And that's where the tutor steps in to help out. So by focusing on what matters to the child, also in the tutoring situation, we can design a program that responds to their particular needs. So in this way, each pupil can be taught and supported in the best possible way to ensure that each of their potential, that they reach their potential, and they become happy, confident learners. So some other things that tutoring can do, we can help build study skills. So most learning difficulty comes from a difficulty of how to learn. So is the child auditory? Is it tactile? Are they visual? Do they need lots of repetition? Do they need lots of practice? A tutor will help the student to understand the best way for them to learn and for them to study. So one size, I'm afraid, does not fit all. We all learn differently. So studying, as we're aware, can involve a particular set of skills that can be learned. So without the proper skills, approaching a task or any task can be confusing, it can be frustrating, and rarely leads to the desired result. So tutoring will help students learn to study using a systematic, organised approach, so they know where to start, they know what to study, and they know when they're test ready or exam ready. So studying isn't just about memorising, it's also about deepening the student's understanding and comprehension of a subject. And when a subject is understood, a student doesn't need to rely on their memory. So this means they will be able to be more confident, less stressed and anxious when sitting the exam or having to go and sit the exam. Tutoring increases understanding. We've talked about some of that. It can give the child personalised and direct feedback. So tutoring will provide you as the parent and the child with detailed feedback about their work, including their strengths and their weaknesses. So this helps to identify where the student can continue to improve and build those academic skills. It increases the student's knowledge. So, of course, it's tutoring can increase the subject-specific knowledge. So if they've got a particular difficulty with a particular subject, they can understand better the facts, the information and the skills needed to know and appreciate a particular subject. So a lot of students that I have need that practical based maths. So they want to buy a new phone. Well, is it practical to buy the phone outright, or is it practical to have it on, a monthly debit? So we look at that and we look at how maths can be used practically. That's giving them a specific subject-based knowledge. So that increases their knowledge. So gives them that deep understanding of the subject and the ability to reason it. So tutoring can also improve listening and communication skills. So when a student is being tutored, they must actively listen, obviously. Active listening is when a student makes a conscious effort to hear and pay attention to what the tutor is saying and tries to understand. So as the session is a one-on-one based with the student can't allow themselves to be distracted. So they're in it and cannot blame their lack of concentration on others. So that's really good for building concentration and improving those listening and communication skills. I also find with students that I work with, it actually increases their motivation and their desire to learn. So working cooperatively in an encouraging atmosphere allows the student to feel safe. Students need to be placed at the centre of their learning, encouraged and challenged to make sense of the information for themselves, basically. So rather than being told what to do and how to do it, tutors like myself are able to form positive student relationships and engage their students, and the learning becomes an enjoyable experience. So they also retain and take on more information. So this is actually a huge subject that I've started on today, talking about why tutoring. There's lots of other areas that tutoring is really, really, really good. It can improve the student's attitude towards the subject area. It can improve their questioning and thinking strategies. It enhances their self-paced and self-directed learning. It improves self-esteem and confidence. It improves the desire to succeed, persistence, and also it's really good for homework help. So a tutor can actually help the student with writing essays or working through maths problems. Some students feel more comfortable working with a tutor in this regard because the students will often listen more to a tutor because they act as a guide. The tutor will act as a guide without judgment or emotional baggage. So parental help with homework seems to help the student to already understand the concepts as well. So as we're aware, homework can actually help reinforce a skill that is learnt, and then it becomes better learnt and better understood. It helps the student to understand the content, but they need more time to work at it than they have in class. Okay, so that's the homework factor. Tutoring also builds fundamental learning foundations. So what do I mean by that? There are students who, for one reason or another, they miss out on the early learning fundamental building blocks. So very simple things they can actually miss out on. It can be through illness. It can just be through not having the learning capacity that they need to get these building blocks. So if they miss out on these, then further learning, of course, will become difficult. You wouldn't build a house without a foundation, would you? Without a solid foundation. So because the house would fall down. Well, it's the same thing with learning. If you don't have a solid foundation, then any other learning becomes difficult. So this is where tutoring is invaluable. A great tutor will diagnose the missing building blocks and work with the student to build a stronger foundation. Tutoring also reduces stress, improves academic performance, encourages that self-paced, self-directed learning. It improves work and study habits, encourages independence and responsibility, and encourages asking of questions, because asking questions are how we learn as well. So I always say to my students, there's no dumb question. If you think the question is dumb, ask it anyway, because 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be, or it's a reinforcement of what's already been said. And of course, students in the school environment may not feel comfortable asking questions in front of their peers. They might feel awkward about it. So tutoring will teach them how to be comfortable asking questions without feeling self-conscious. So tutoring also improves social skills and prepares them for college, or prepares them from that year 6 to year 7 change, and then again the year 10 to 11 change. So students are heading off to college, they'll learn how to create study plans and develop advanced study skills and learn superior time management skills. We can do all that too. We can help prepare them for college in those ways. The numerous benefits of tutoring in college as well, including that reinforcement of existing knowledge and gaining a better understanding of a field of study. So as you can see, tutoring is pretty invaluable and will benefit any student. So what I suggest that you do, there's a lot of information packed here, and I've been talking for a while now, so I don't want to talk your ear off too much. Please contact us at Learning Boosters. Now, you can contact us on www.learningboosters.com.au. We have an Instagram page, Learning Boosters Mentor, and we have a Facebook page called Learning Boosters. You can contact me anywhere on any of those. There's a contact form on the website, or you can contact me through my mobile, which is 0402 451 681. On the website, there is a contact page, as I said, but you can also book in for a free half-hour chat with me about any difficulties or disabilities that your child is having. I hope that's helped, giving you an overview of why tutoring, why bother with tutoring. It really is a complex issue, learning, and to get that individual one-on-one time for your child is such a rewarding and positive thing for them. I hope you have a great month, and I'll see you back here for Wisdom Wednesday next month. Bye now.